Ready to take your favorite WagerTalk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The WagerTalk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like WagerTalk Today, Bet on It, and the Opening Line Report. Plus, browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for WagerTalk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.
Hello, everyone. It is January 2023. The PGA Tour season is back from its 6-week hiatus. Golf is back, baby, and that means so is tee time for the new season. I can't wait to cover all the tournaments with you each and every week. Of course, with me, as always, my best friend, Andy Lang, here with WagerTalk.com, alongside of me for the full ride. Andy, Sentry Tournament of Champions kicks it all off this week in Hawaii. Are you as excited as I am, my friend?
It in the grand scheme of things, it's not been that long of a break, but man, it feels like forever, and yet it seems so fast. The golf profits being back it's just such a great feeling. Very, very interesting new year, Nick. We've got a lot of storylines that we're going to be covering, but I am so excited, and we are not effing around on this show. You are coming out of the gates hot with a big best bet. I love it that you're setting the tone for the season. So yes, looking forward to another incredible year on Tee Time.
Yes, I am. I do have a 5% play loaded for the first week back. I didn't release many of these last year. It was 7 or 8 of them for the entire year. So I'm excited about this spot right off the bat. Hopefully it comes through for me this week. As we like to start the show every week, we'll let everybody kind of know what we got going on our pages at WagerTalk for this week's tournament. We do not have a promo necessarily for this week. You can, of course, grab just this week's package, but we got full season packages available for both Andy and myself. Mine right now is just golf. $199 gets you all golf plays from now through the Tour Championship, which, of course, is in the end of August. Andy's got a great one as well. His is all of 2023, so that takes you until New Year's Eve 2023, and that's going to include golf and auto racing. Andy, tell the viewers a little bit what to expect from you on the auto racing side. I know the guys that follow the show know what you do for golf. What do they expect on the auto racing side of that package?
Yeah, the handicapping style is pretty similar. Very heavy on the head-to-head matchups. I do not do outrights in golf or auto racing. We just concentrate on the props. The head-to-heads. Never had a losing golf or auto racing season since joining WagerTalk. We ran this special last year, and it ended up being plus 66 units. So incredible return. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to another big year. It's going to include all golf head-to-heads, props, anything that we have, and it includes all NASCAR and Formula One. So looking for another big year. We had a great read on all the sports. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't have another successful season again. And yeah, I mean, Nick, getting yours for $199, getting mine for $299. When you break it down, you know how much it costs per week, which even the per week is really, really valuable and really, really good. There's no reason to not invest in the season-long pack.
Yeah, agreed. And those are some awesome numbers from you on the auto racing side last year. And you were great at golf as well. And just for the viewers maybe tuning in for the first time for the golf show, Andy and I kind of attack the golf tournaments from separate angles. I usually gear towards the outright plays, the leaderboard markets. Andy finds the matchup plays very, very well. So we have a little bit of both flavors. If you care to invest in both, we usually don't overlap too much on our weekly bets. This week, Andy, of course, we always like to start off the show after our promo section with our best bets and worst bets from last week, but I guess we don't really have much to cover on that for this week. But, of course, next week we'll get back into that, and maybe we'll throw in a funny maybe the worst shot of the week or something in there as well, because we know the shots that make us all feel like we suck, or they suck as much as we do, it always makes us feel good. So we'll get into that next week. This week, as we venture into Hawaii at Kapalua, we'll start off the show looking at the top 10 players coming into this. I always start off every show last year, Andy, with this graphic. This is the top 10 total strokes gained of the players. This is the previous 6 months of the players in the field. This is the top 10 list. And this field is deep. We'll get into that in a minute. So it's 17 of the top 20 players in the field. So you can imagine that's where most of these players are going to be on this list. And of course, they are all right there. Tony Finau leads the list, 12th in the world, gaining 2.65 strokes per round, which is very significant, very, very strong. And considering you got Rahm, Cantley, Schauffele, and Scheffler as the next 4 in order, and Finau leads that list, just tells you how well he's been playing. Then you got young Tom Kim, who's been like a fireball on the PGA Tour as he's joined. So a lot expected of him, I'm sure, from both of us this year. Victor Hovland, who comes off the Hero win back in December. Cam Young, Will Zalatoris back in action for the first time since the FedEx Cup. Sung Jae Im then rounds out the top 10. I threw a couple notables on here. Matthew Fitzpatrick and Max Homa, just, awesome players, had great years last year. Well worthy of their spot on here. So that's your hot players coming in this week, Andy. So as we get going into our breakdown of this event, I always like to go to you first to talk a little bit about this week's field, the tournament in general. What should the viewers know this week going to Kapalua?
Well, shout out to Sean, because Sean has already pointed out one of these storylines, and that is Max Homa having a new baby. So Max Homa, you all know my thoughts on this. Fade the golfer just had a new baby. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that because he had the baby a couple months ago, so he's had time to adjust. I really like to attack this angle when they have a baby in the middle of the season. I'm going to try and figure this out. Sung Jae Im is married now. Somebody locked down Sung Jae Im. How about that? And then one of the other weird things, and it starts off this week, Nick, like we're going to go, well, this is the person who won it last year. It's like, oh, are they back to defend the title? No, they're playing in a different league. This has never happened. So some of these numbers are going to be very, very strange. You're going to be missing a lot of guys that we're used to seeing up at the top of the leaderboard. So as far as the course goes, it's really easy. The only defense that this course tends to have is weather, and there is no inclement weather. It does not look like the wind is going to be that bad. There was no wind last year, and the final score was minus 34, which is just incredible. Small field. I know the stats will kind of say, well, any type of player can win it. In my opinion, this is a bomber's paradise. These guys can attack these short par fours. I mean, some of these guys will have 100 yards coming into these par fours. And then, of course, this is just comes down to who gets the hottest putter. When you get an easy course like this, everyone's going to be hitting the greens. Everyone's going to be hitting the fairways. The fairways are really, really wide. So it's just going to come down to putting. You're going to support guys that can really get hot over 4 rounds, and you're going to tend to shy away from some of the guys that have some iffy putting numbers, and we'll go over a few of those guys there. But look for unbelievably low scores this week, and it's just, I mean, some of these guys are going to average -8, maybe even -9 per round with the weather, how it looks this week. So it's a great way. I love that this is the first tournament to start the year. It's fun. It kind of eases you in. It's a small field. It's very watchable. So it's a great tournament. I look forward to it every year, but look for low scores.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. The wind is pretty much the only defense Kapalua has, and there isn't much of that expected here in Hawaii this week. So we should see a lot of red numbers. I mean, if you look at last year's leaderboards, you're seeing -10, -11, -12, pretty much on the regular throughout all 4 rounds. So I'm sure we'll see plenty of those numbers this week as well. One thing that I think, if you look back at kind of the history of some of the winners at this event, everybody hits bombs here, right? I mean, it's Kapalua. It's got a lot of undulation changes. You can catch the slopes and hit, even Luke Donald can hit a 350-yard bomb here. But the one thing I will say is that the winners do tend to be some of the longer hitters on tour, and looking more into the overall length of this track, it's just under 7,600 yards, Andy, which, sounds long. Again, it won't play quite that long, but some of the longer players still do have an advantage because they're the ones that can hit all of the speed slots and undulations that will funnel your ball another 70 yards down the fairway and onto the green. If you remember Dustin Johnson's near ace on the 430-yard, I forget what hole it was, 12 or 13, a couple years back. So, like, just having that ability to hit it, that extra gear, is going to probably be a big factor again this week. So I am gearing a lot of my plays around distance this week because I think, that's going to be an advantage. If you look at some of the history, Andy, of the guys that have done well here, let's start off with the favorite this week. You got Jon Rahm, plus 650 to win this thing. Of course, we know his distance. He was number 5 in distance in Tour last year, number 1 strokes gained off the tee. He's finished inside the top 10 in each of the last 5 years, including 2 runner-ups. Of course, last year, 1 stroke short of Cam Smith, who you already mentioned will not be back to defend his title this year. So certainly has an axe to grind this week. Justin Thomas, another bomber, 14th in distance, 9 strokes gains off the tee. He's finished inside the top 5 in each of the last 4 years, including a win in 2020. And then he also had one back in 2017. And then even you go down to Xander Schauffele, who you might not think is a bomber. He's 35th in distance, 34th in strokes gained off the tee, which doesn't sound, it's not the top 10 or top 20, but compared to most of the guys in this field, it's still pretty long. And of course, his history here, very strong as well. 3 top 5 finishes in the last 4 years, including a win in 2019. So it does seem to have at least a longer trend. Doesn't mean a shorter hitter can't win any given year, but the longer players have performed better consistently here, it seems. At least that's what the data shows so far. But that stuff is meant to be broken as the years goes on. But that is definitely kind of where I'm gearing a lot of my information for this week. And then one other thing I wanted to mention, the tour season a little different this year. We have the elevated events, right, Andy? And this is one of those events. So Google PGA Tour elevated events for those that don't know, but there's going to be a handful, 17 actually in total, but that includes the majors, the WGC events, and the FedEx Cup. So that's already 10 of them. So maybe 7 other events that are elevated, which means big purses and should draw a big field as far as top players in the world as the PGA Tour tries to compete. I say tries to compete, air quote that, with LIV Golf, but at least they kind of had to respond to this as far as money goes, and this is their way of doing that. So we'll see how that plays out this week. Of course, this is the first one, and there's a big purse, $15 million in the purse with only 39 players in the field. So a lot of money to throw around with these guys this week. All right, Andy, let's get into some of our suggestions, our plays, our guys maybe not to play this week, as we like to go to you on that segment. I'll start off first, and I'll throw out an outright play I have circled for this week. And listen, you got the top 20 guys in the field. Yeah, there's 39 players in the field, but 17 of the top 20 are here. Do we really expect somebody outside of that to win? Probably not. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of long numbers you're going to get this week, and that's okay. You're just going to have to pick maybe 1 or 2 or 3, depending on how far down the odds board you go, as opposed to picking maybe 4 or 5 outrights like you might when you get in guys 60 to 1 or 70 to 1. So Xander is one I circled this week. He's 11 to 1. So price tag again, not that sexy, but aside from throwing the most obvious bomber Jon Rahm here for an outright play, which plus 650, I don't love that outright number. I think Xander's price is decent. I already mentioned his driving data from last year as I talked about his success here. But in the fall, he played well too. He was finished tied for 9th at the Zozo and followed that up with a 4th place at the Hero. Xander's a birdie machine. Andy already alluded to the fact that you're going to have to make a shit ton of them this week. And he ranked number 9 in birdie average last week. And he ranked number 11, greens in regulation, number 5, scoring average, number 8, putts per green in regulation. So when he hits the green, he converts them. And number 2 in sand saves, just in case he gets a little looser on the course. But Xander obviously loves playing here, and I think he's going to have a good chance to win for the second time here come Sunday. All I ever expect from my outright plays, or hope rather for my outright plays, is that on Sunday you're within a couple shots and we have a chance, and I think he'll at least present us that opportunity come that final round. So Xander Schauffele is an outright selection I like this week, 11 to 1. Andy, let's go over to you. You always like to start off the show going on to guys. I focus in on the guys you want to bet. Andy tells you the guys you might not want to bet, and that's honestly more important than I think than it is on trying to figure out the guys to bet on. And it's hard, especially on a loaded field like this. And he's not going to go down to the guy ranked 39th in the field on the odds board and tell you who not to bet. Everybody knows not to bet him. He's going to look at these top guys and tell you who not to bet. So, Andy, take it away, my friend. You got a tough job. Who are you avoiding this week?
Well, we call the segment players that can trip you up. And, I got 3 bigger names. That's the challenging part of this segment. But we'll start with 3 big names. First one, Will Zalatoris. We've seen in the past Zalatoris, fantastic ball striker, incredible player on the very tough courses. But his putting sometimes does not fit well on these really low scoring courses. He's such a technical player, and he's so good at navigating, the majors and the really, really tough ones. But when it comes down to just a complete putting contest where, there's really no advantage to being, extremely accurate off the tee, if you don't have to get too creative with the approaches, he can kind of struggle a little bit. He's only plus 0.11 strokes gained the last 6 months, but just fantastic tee to green. So he can get it there, but he's just not that really, really low player. The course of weather, as we went over, setting up for very low scoring. I think it's going to be minus 30 or better. And I just worry he's not going to be low enough to compete there. Add to that, he's coming off of 2 herniated discs in his back. That could always be an issue. We always talk about wrist and back injuries. So you're going to have to invest in him this week. Could he go out there and perform and finish in the top 5? Absolutely. But there are so many other good players that where he's priced at, I would lean elsewhere. So Will Zalatoris is my first player that can trip you up. Second player, Victor Hovland. He has really good stats from the 2022 season, but the last 6 months were not his best golf. He kind of fell off. He's only plus 0.15 strokes gain putting. That's not going to get it done this week if he putts at that rate. And the big red flag for me, Nick, he's finished 30th and 31st here the last 2 years. That is awful for a player of his caliber. It looks like just he and this course just do not get along. So I'm going to be staying away from him just because of his lack of success here at the course. I mean, 30th and 31st is pretty tough to defend that one. So where he's priced at, you're going to need a top 15 finish from him, and he's not shown that he can do that with those putting numbers. I don't think he's going to get there this week. And then Scotty Scheffler, he's priced as the favorite. His putting can be shockingly bad, like stunningly bad at times. Which makes his finishes that much more impressive and that much more surprising. Since September 1st, Nick, he's 0.72 strokes gained putting. And that's just been the theme with him in 2022. As good of a year as he had, his putting just really let him down. His tee to green game is so good and so elite that it makes up for it. But I have doubts this week at a course that's going to require lights out putting over 4 rounds. His last 3 finishes of 2022 were 3rd, 9th, and 2nd. But he's the favorite this week. In order to return value, he basically has to win. One bad round of putting from him, which he's shown that he's capable of, and he's probably going to finish outside the top 10 because that top 10 is going to be full of guys that have 4 rounds of solid putting. So he's my third guy that can trip you up. Zalatoris, Hovland, and Scheffler are guys I will not be involved with this week.
I like it, Andy. And one thing I look forward to, well, maybe I don't look forward to this segment. Or I do and I don't, because I always try to release like my outright selections on Monday to for myself to play and for clients, because you get the best numbers on Monday and you kind of lose some value as the week goes on. And I don't yet know who Andy is avoiding and players that he's suggesting to trip up. So I always get a little knot in my stomach when we get to this segment and I have to listen to who you're suggesting not to play, because generally you're right more often than I am when we go opposite on a player like that. So thankfully, those 3 guys are not on my outright card this week. That makes me feel a little better. And for a lot of similar reasons, Andy, I did avoid the 3 of them from that type of a bet standpoint as well. Will Zalatoris, I'll get into in a second. I did like him in a slightly different market, a different way to bet it, but we'll get to that later. So good segment there from me, Andy. Thank you. I'll move on to another bet I'm looking at. So if you follow my plays throughout the year, I focus on outrights, and then usually leaderboard. I'll do like one best bet leaderboard a week, and that's top 10, top 20, sometimes top 40, depending on the what kind of tournament or field we're looking at. This week, top 10 play, minus 120. Not normally a price I'm going to pay on a top 10, but 39 guys in the field, so we're talking about beating only a quarter of the field. JT, Justin Thomas, and really it's a lot to do with his course history here. Very, very good. He loves it at this field. Winner in 2017, winner in 2020. Finished no worse than 5th the last 4 years. So, feel free to press your luck on a top 5 play, which is paying plus 200, but this gives us a little bit more room for error. Like most big names this week, JT doesn't have a lot of starts from this fall, but he did finish 5th at the Hero. He did play in the match. I don't know if you watched that, Andy, and him and Spieth kicked Tiger and Rory's butts pretty good in that match. So he got a little reps in. And of course, we know how he was at the President's Cup, where he was dominating fashion with him and Spieth. 4-0 before losing that singles match on Sunday, but it didn't really matter at that point. Thomas, he bombs it off the tee. I already mentioned that, and his stats here on his distance. He ranks also number 3 in birdie average, another key component for this week. Tee to green game is as good as anyone's. He ranked number 3 strokes gained last year, Andy. So he's going to have his chances this week. The one thing that worries me, you just mentioned it with Scotty and his putting, is same with JT. The putter is ultimately going to decide his finish, and I'm just not surely in belief that it's going to get him to the win. So that's why I'm a little hesitant on the outright side of it. But on the leaderboard side of it, in the top 10, he's going to give himself enough chances to be in that top 10 and, again, beat quarter of the field. And let's be honest, you got 39 players in the field. There's probably only really 15 or so that have a true chance to win this thing. So I think he can at least get in that top 25% of the field. So JT, top 10 finish, minus 120, I think presents pretty good value on the leaderboard market this week. Andy, let's go back to you for your next segment, and this is great for the daily fantasy golf players and guys that like to do that market. And this is your DraftKings Darlings. So, how are you rounding out your lineups this week? Who your value plays that you're putting in there to round out your lineups?
Well, first off, it's my favorite graphic that we have. Maybe on all of WagerTalk.
It is fantastic.
It's great. Real quick, before we get into DraftKings Darlings, we have our fantasy golf league. It starts this Thursday. If anybody out there wants to join, you have to join before Thursday. Just send me an email. The email is bumprunsports@gmail.com. I'll send you all the information. That's bumprunsports@gmail.com. I've been putting on the league for years, so it's through a PGA Tour website. It's a ton of fun, but you got to get a lineup in before Thursday. So if you want to join, send me an email and I'll get you set up. All right, so DraftKings Darlings, what we do here is I pick some very low-priced golfers, and we'll go over why I like these and I think they're big values, and then I'll build my favorite DraftKings lineup. So I have 2 DraftKings Darlings this week since it's such a short field, but I'm going to go real low with Trey Mullinax at 6,200. And this is a no-cut event, so you're going to get points all 4 days from these guys. He drives the ball, Nick, 315 yards. So in these wide fairways, he should be set up for some easy wedge approaches on these shorter par 4s. He's plus 0.15 strokes gained putting, which isn't great, but when you're priced at 6,200, which is the third lowest price guy, this is a great inexpensive option for a guy that's plus strokes gained in most of the main categories. So as long as he can drive the ball this 315 yards and probably more on this course, I think he's going to get us positive points to the weekend. And then I'm going to pick Scott Stallings at 6,600 as my next as my next DraftKings Darling. Great story about Scott Stallings, Nick. I don't know if you saw that the Masters mailed the invitation to a different Scott Stallings. Just a normal guy. And that Scott Stallings sent out a message that was like, hey, I actually golf, but I don't think I'm that good. So I'm guessing this went to the wrong Scott Stallings. They should have him as a guest for that week or something, because it was a great story. So Stallings plus 0.65 strokes gained, teeting 0.24 putting. As putting numbers are 6 months. Jordan Spieth, and Young, and rounds of him. If he numbers, I think it's gonna be at this price. So I'll go ahead and take Scott Stallings there. So now I'm going to build my final lineup, and I wanted some big name guys in here, Nick. I need some big name guys, so I'm going to go with Jon Rahm and Patrick Cantlay. Rahm is, top 10 machine here, finished second last year. Cantlay's game sets up well for this course. He's finished fourth 2 out of the last 3 years. I just really like the way Tom Kim has been playing. His strokes gain numbers are just so impressive over the last 6 months. He can get a really, really hot putter. We've seen him do incredible things on the greens. So I'm going to take Tom Kim as well at 8,700. And then Sung Jae Im, he just loves playing here. He's finished 5th. He's finished 8th. The 2 times that he's played here. So when I build this lineup, it's kind of a bit of a 2 scrubs and Stallings, Mullinax, 2 middle of the road, and Tom Kim and Sung Jae Im. And then I get the big time names of Cantlay and Rahm. So that's my best lineup that I'll be playing head to head this week.
Love the lineup, Andy. And Sung Jae is like, I looked at the history of this event. Not a lot of guys do well in their first year here, and he came out right firing from the gates and had 2 good years in his first 2. And that's why Tom Kim was an interesting choice, because I was like, I wonder, where he'll be. But listen, he was a rookie last year, and he played everywhere was new to him, and he won, and he did fantastic. So I was like, I guess it doesn't really matter for Tom Kim. So I'm sure he'll do just fine. So I like that lineup from you this week, Andy. Good luck with that for sure. Let's get into our final segment here of the show, and that is our best bets for the week. I'm looking at a matchup play. You mentioned him as a player to avoid, and while I do not disagree with your selection here, I do like Will Zalatoris in a matchup play over Hideki Matsuyama. It's not that I expect Will necessarily to come out here and break a top 5 or win the damn thing, but I just don't know what to expect from Hideki, and it's more of a fade on him. So I think this is a decent matchup. And it's not often I'm going to get behind a guy that's coming off the injury. You just don't really know what to expect. But what do we need to say about how good he was last year? He finally got the win monkey off his back right there at the first FedEx Cup playoff event in the St. Jude. Of course, then he pulls out of the BMW with those herniated discs in his very next start. But he's ranked number 7 in the world already. Last year he had 2 runner-ups at the majors and then another tie for 6 at the Masters. All in all, top 10 finishes in 25 starts. He had 9 of them. Zalatoris did commit to this event. The one thing that I kind of like is that he committed to this event over a month ago. So that tells me that he's been healthy now for some time, and I would expect he's putting in a lot of practice, a lot of reps, because I'm sure he's eager to get back into the thick of things as he missed all that time. So I expect him to play pretty well. I don't think he's going to be necessarily up there and have a chance to win. And I agree with Andy on the fact that you're getting an outright market is probably not worth the price. But Matsuyama, for me, is a guy I just don't want to get behind at all. And honestly, for Zalatoris not playing in 4 months, I think I've heard more about him than I have about Matsuyama, because it just seems like he's fallen out of the spotlight altogether. In 3 fall starts, Andy, he withdrew from the Houston Open. He finished tied for 34th at the limited field CJ Cup, and then tied for 40 at another limited field event at the Zozo. So nowhere in contention, not anywhere even being talked about or mentioned about in those events. He was awful at the President's Cup for the international team, and there's just nothing I've seen from him in several months now that makes me want to back him here. His last top 10 finish was a 4th place at the U.S. Open in June, obviously good there. But since then, he hasn't finished a tournament in 3 of 9 starts with 2 withdrawals and a miscut. And he's finished inside the top 25 just 1 time. So not expecting a lot from Matsuyama. I think Zalatoris, maybe he doesn't finish top 10, but maybe he's top 20 and Matsuyama's down towards the bottom 10. So I think Zalatoris can finish ahead of Matsuyama on the leaderboard. So I'm going with him as my head-to-head matchup. Andy, let's go back to you for your best bet of the week. What are you looking at?
I am going to be fading Matsuyama for a while. He's been a train wreck ever since those live rumors. Seriously, remember when those live rumors came out? It's just been like he's just been playing in a completely different world. It's like he's lost his focus. So I'm 100% in agreement with you that there's nothing you can do with Matsuyama except fade. My best bet, I'm going to go with the head-to-head matchup, Aaron Wise over Russell Henley. I just think this course sets up so much better for Aaron Wise. Over the last 6 months, Russell Henley has played 30 rounds, and he's minus 0.77 strokes gained putting. Awful.
Ew.
Wise has played 40 rounds and is plus 0.66 strokes gained putting, 3rd best in this field. So I get the guy that over the last 6 months is 3rd best in putting. He drives the ball much farther than Henley, so he's going to have the shorter approaches. I know a lot of these approaches are going to be easy for just about everybody, but with this huge advantage in putting, I think he has a good shot to have a very respectable finish. Wise has only missed 1 cut since March. Since March 20th, he's only missed 1 cut. He's been consistent. He's been in the top 30 in full field events. I just love his consistency. In the fall, Russell Henley actually won the Mayakoba, but that was completely out of left field. He played 3 other tournaments, finished 45th, missed cut. He only has 3 finishes inside the top 30 in full field since mid-April. So when you look at Henley and you see that win, it was very much the outlier. The norm for him these days is that he just really, really struggles, especially putting. So give me Aaron Wise over Russell Henley. This is a free play that's up at WagerTalk.com and part of the Tourney of Champions pack as well.
Love it. Yeah, Aaron Wise was a guy I always looking at the outright markets before every tournament, he was always the guy. The odds makers are not, they're aware of him. And he was always one of the guys in that 30-1 range. It's not like he was ever down there in the 60, 70-1 range, even in some of the deeper fields. So clearly the books are liking him. Andy's on him. I think it's a pretty good play. And, just from his length alone, he should have a lot of advantage this week and be able to catch some of those extra undulation rolls that maybe Henley can't quite get to. So like the play, Andy. Before we finish up today's show, at the end of last year, we were starting to try to predict some tournament scores, right? What would be the winning score this week? So I think we're going to get back into that this year, and I believe you're going to keep some score, and you got to let us know what are the rules this year, how we doing this thing.
Okay, so we're going to take turns picking the winning score. We're going to rotate who picks first each week. So you can go first this week, then I'll go first next week, and then we'll rotate that. Picks have to be more than one shot apart. So if you pick minus 14, the closest I can, get to guess is, minus 16 or minus 12. Whoever picks the closest score gets a point. Ties are no points, which a tie is going to be pretty damn hard. If you pick the exact score, though, you get 2 points. And we will update the standings every week. And what we'll do is whoever wins, Nick, will pick one of our followers here in the chat room at the end of the year, and we'll give out a little swag, WagerTalk swag. So, we are going to play in a tournament, and the viewers win. So I figured that's the best way to do it. So you get honors. You pretty much dominated me last year. So, boy, this is an interesting one. We're going low. How low are you willing to go when you're picking the score?
How low can I go? You're right. I mean, this is where Rom and Cam just kind of kept pushing each other to that ridiculous number last year. 34. Will we get to that number? That's the question. Listen, that is the lowest score in relation to par in PGA Tour history, Andy. So I can't go over that, right? Or under that, rather. I can't bet more than that. I can't. It's never happened before. So I'll back off it a little bit. Can they just break 30 or 31? I'm going to go with a flat 30. 30 under.
Going with flat 30.
That's minus 30, Andy. Write that down. Minus 30.
Minus That's amazing. I did not think we would be guessing minus 30s on this show, but yet here we are. I thought what the guys did last year was so incredible and just completely insane. And I just don't think they're going to be able to do that. So I'm going to go with minus 27. I think they come in just under that 30 number. 30 is just so hard to get. You're right. Those guys played off of each other. It was a lot of fun to watch, but we'll go with minus 27. So first tournament of the year, Nick has predicted minus 30. I've gone with minus 27. We'll keep track of that, and at the end of the year, we'll award a swag package to one of our listeners.
Love it, and I like how we're saying that. Oh, we're not going to go that low this week, so we're going to go with 30 under par instead of going real low. The Sentry Tournament of Champions. Glad to be back with you, Andy. Reminder for the viewers this week of our promos going on, and these are season-long promos for the beginning of the season here. All PGA Tour picks from me this year through the Tour Championship, which is the end of August, for $199. I'm an outright and leaderboard better most of the time. Occasionally I'll have a matchup in there, but those are my what is it saying? Tried and true plays that I'll throw in the package throughout the year every week. Andy, you can get all his golf plays and auto racing plays for the entire calendar year of 2023 for just $299. He'll focus a lot of his plays on matchups. So definitely worth an investment in either one or maybe both. But Andy, I wish you the best of luck on both golf and auto racing this year. And for those watching, if you haven't noticed, it is a different day and a different time this year. We will be live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Try to get you the info a little earlier this year so you have a little bit more time to do your own research before getting in your golf wagers for the week. So, Andy, appreciate you coming on, man. I look forward to a great year with you on this show, and hopefully we can find a lot of winners for the viewers along the way. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button. As always, I wanted to mention one last thing, Andy. You look really good in blue, by the way. I do like the shirt. And that's an inside joke. As we both logged onto the show, we were both wearing black. And Andy, without even saying a word, stood up, walked out, came back in 30 seconds later with a different color on because he refused to wear the same shirt as me.
Behind the
look good,
scenes,
buddy.
it is my pet peeve when people come on shows and they're wearing the same color. It's a gigantic no-no, and I have literally 100 shirts that I can change into. I have them ready to go. So if someone comes on and is wearing the same color as me, my mind is immediately like, just get up and change shirts. So you're welcome. I do
I
look
didn't know
good
where the
in
hell
blue.
you went. You just got up and left. I asked Joe and Rob, our producers. I'm like, what? All right, whatever. I thought I was on my own, but glad you came back and you look good in blue, buddy. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in with us this week. Good luck on your bets. Enjoy the first PGA Tour event of the 2023 season, and we will see you again next week, staying in Hawaii for the Sony Open. Good luck with your wagers this week, everyone.
Ready to take your favorite WagerTalk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The WagerTalk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like WagerTalk Today, Bet on It, and the Opening Line Report. Plus, browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for WagerTalk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.